Hello, everybody. It's Marty, the JavaScript party. I'm a buddy Rhett, and I'm going to do one of my rare, what is it, use it or lose it, sort of videos where I kind of talk about something that is, like kind of, I don't know, controversial is probably not the right word, but anyways, let's get to it. So I think that we are in a phase in the United States where business decision makers and are making horrible, just absolutely destructive decisions. And the reason they are is because they're like, I don't think they're classically dumb or anything like that, but they are really stupid when it comes to the way LLM works. So I'm going to try this to get straight to the point because the last time I did one of these, I did get one comment where someone said, "Hey, get to the point." Okay, so the point that is the point. People who are LLM experts they are dumb, stupid when it comes to business, when it comes to sports, when it comes to like anything like outside of sort of academia. Like they believe that knowledge is the key, and as long as you have knowledge, if you know how to kick a soccer ball, you can kick a soccer ball. If you know how to sell a car, you can sell a car. You just need to know. And that's bull crap. And we all know that. Anyone who's ever tried to sell a car, anyone who's ever tried to play a sport, anyone who's ever tried to do anything in the real world in reality knows that that is complete crap. On the other side of things, people think they understand how computers work. And LLMs work completely different than any other computer scheme that I've ever been around. And these business people think that the LLMs are figuring things out, and the LLMs are not figuring things out. They do not know how to figure things out. They know how to analyze a ton of different things that a ton of different people said and then make a really, really, really good guess as to which one of them is right. And that is that. And that's the point. And if that's all you wanted, hey, have a wonderful day. Okay, so next I'm going to go a little deeper, and then after that, I'm going to kind of do the old man stories kind of thing that I like to do. Okay, so here's a little deeper. I wrote into ChatGPT, I think the business decision makers and LLM experts are combining to make terrible decisions because decisions don't bu- business decision makers don't understand LLMs and LLM experts don't understand business. What makes it really bad is both think that they do. So business people think they understand LLMs. You do not. You don't have a freaking clue. You don't understand it at all. LLM people think they understand how business works. They don't. Don't trust them. They have no clue. They do not understand. They look at the world in a completely different way than you do. Okay? They don't understand. They don't get it. They think they get it. They are so confident. They think they get it. They don't. They don't get it. They say if you were to sit there and talk to them about something, like they will think things like, "Oh, AI can pick fantasy football no problem because everything's pretty well organized." No, that's bullshit. Anytime I've ever played fantasy football and there's been an AI involved, or we look at AI predictions, they're wrong. They are so wrong. It's incredible how wrong they are. And sometimes it's so obvious that they're going to be completely wrong. But anyways, the answer to that was that is a sharp observation. So LLMs, they want to be positive. That isn't necessarily a sharp observation. They just say that. So I've never seen it say, well, that's rooted in idiocy or something like that. If it says it's a sharp observation, it really more means that you're kind of in sync with a lot of other people that are thinking along the lines that you're thinking. And I think you're right. Again, it doesn't think. LLMs don't think. They don't think. They just look at things, they look at lots of different things, they come up with sort of the best answer for what you're saying. And apparently, based on our extensive history and our um, and all that, it knows that I enjoy being told that I'm right. Okay, so that's on me. I need probably something I need to work on. So it's a classic mutual overconfidence gap. That I've never heard that phrase before. It's a great phrase. It's a classic mutual overconfidence gap. both sides are overconfident, and now they're doing stupid things. They're doing mass layoffs, and those mass layoffs are going to put them out of business. They are shooting themselves in the foot. That's an American phrase. I know most people who watch my videos aren't in the United States, so that's a phrase here. It just kind of means you are making a mistake. Business decision makers often assume because they've successfully adopted past technologies, cloud, mobile, analytics, they can apply the same playbook to LLMs. But LLMs aren't just another technology. They reshape how work happens. What who does it and what value even means. So traditional business instincts like chasing cost savings and efficiency metrics can lead them to miss the deeper strategic shifts. Okay, that is true. That's not where I'm going, but meanwhile, LLM experts, often data scientists or prompt engineers, tend to underestimate the complexity of business realities. Okay, I do not think that is the issue either. Regulatory constraints, consumer perception, risk tolerance, legacy systems, and internal politics. They see what is technically possible, but not what's organizationally feasible. So on both cases, I do agree, but I don't think that's in either case that is the the deeper problem. What your point, especially especially important, what makes your point especially important is that both sides talk with confidence. Business leaders say we'll automate this, while LLM experts say the model can handle that. The illusion of shared ex, understanding accelerates bad decisions. So I totally agree with it's a classic mutual overconfidence gap. I'm with them 100% on that, and um, it's an illusion of shared understanding that accelerates bad decisions. I agree with that too. And we have a scaling issue in the United States. I don't know, maybe it's around the world. I don't know. I'm kind of US centric, but in the US, we have people at the top who can be insanely dumb about very obvious things and at the same time make decisions that have huge impact. So that's it. Um, you could almost describe it as a false consensus of confidence. Oh, that's a good one. Yeah, it's a false consensus of confidence. And then it tries to engage me in the conversation. So that's that. Okay, so that's a deeper, and I do think that the real problem is that business people have had technologies that are like sort of consistent and reliable most of their lives. And so they expect like if they have like a little hand calculator, they expect to be able to type in 7 times 7 and get 49 over and over and over and over again. With an LLM, you won't necessarily always get 49 over and over and over again. And they say it's a hallucination, but it's not. It's that it looked at everything and for some reason it got the impression that uh, 40 that maybe a different number is the right number, and it might even be right, but it just in some of the context or something like that. So that is like the really important thing to keep in mind is it's not calculating things. It's not a calculator. It's a decision tree. It's a decision. It's a text analysis slash best guess system, and it does a damn good job at that. On the other hand, um, people who do LLMs and all that, like most of them have been nose in a book their whole lives. Every single thing, every part of their whole lives, they've always just studied and all that. Maybe they played some ultimate frisbee on a weekend, and they're like, they've come to some decisions that they're experts in sports now. Maybe they've met a leader that was a certain way, and or a lot of times they'll even look at things and say, why aren't we running everything? Obviously, the reason is because people are crazy or something, like they think the whole world is insane. It's just they don't have a clue what's going on in real life. I mean, they have their role; they're very important. It's like LLMs are amazing, and the people who make them and understand them are amazing, but they don't know crap about the real world. And and so they will tell you with absolute confidence that you can replace all your salespeople with an LLM, but or you can replace all your waitresses with a a robot, but no one goes to freaking a restaurant to for the food. That is not why people go. They go there because we're human beings and we want to interact with other human beings, right? Like we there are some cultures where they're not as into that and they have vending machines and all that. So anyways, that is that phase. Um, I would like the last thing I kind of want to do is sort of just kind of describe an actual analogy, illustration of what I'm talking about. And so like I love fantasy football. I really enjoy it. It's one of my favorite things. And I am pretty good at it. Like, if I lose, I usually can, even though I've lost, I'm usually one of the highest scorers, um, of points. Because, sometimes you just get unlucky and, from week to week, all kinds of people who lose every week, suddenly their team just does great. And your team just, like everybody on your team just has a bad week or whatever. But, so winning and losing doesn't necessarily mean anything, but I kind of went on a winning streak for a while, and what it was that I had identified that when you have a defense can get points, and the likelihood a defense is going to make a lot of points has a lot more to do with the team they're playing against than with themselves. So, like, all the defenses are really good, and um, if they're playing against the offense that's very weak, or maybe like sometimes the offense has just given up, or a team has just said, okay, yeah, we're not gonna, or they've had some kind of crazy injury or whatever, and they just like so. Unlike most positions in fantasy football, defense specifically is more about who they're against than who they are. It's just the reality of fantasy football. And one thing I noticed was that first I noticed that so I would most people were that I play with they keep the same defense. They just draft a defense at the very beginning, and they noticed that I was switching defenses every week. And then they looked at it and they said, "Oh, wow, like I should why is he doing that?" And then they kind of figured out what I was doing, and then they just followed along. And then I noticed that no one was looking 2 weeks ahead. So I would get a defense 2 weeks that's going to be playing somebody in 2 weeks. So I would have two defenses, which very rarely did anybody have two defenses. But then I would have one that was going to be playing somebody in 2 weeks, and no one just noticed it. Like no one. And finally, someone just said, "Man, how are you doing? Like, how are you always getting good defenses?" Like I go and I go, "Oh, I'm gonna go get this defense," and you already have them. They just weren't noticing that I was getting them 2 weeks ahead. I was like, "Oh yeah, because in 2 weeks, like the ones in 2 weeks, and so are usually available." And then I noticed that they weren't available. Now I did that personally because I just want to get better at fantasy football. So like I don't want to have some cheap gimmick where I win. I want to be able to I want to lose I want my competitors to get good and then for me to lose so that I can get better. That's because I want it to force me into a corner that makes me then innovate and come up with novel solutions. That's what I want to do. Um, so if you if I so what the LLMs do is they look at what people when you ask them about fantasy football, they look at what people wrote in blogs and stuff. And so if I write it in a blog, oh, so you should look at defenses not as the defense itself, but as of who they're going to be playing against. And B, if you should look 2 weeks in advance or multiple weeks in advance. Oh, I forgot to plug my battery in. Um, so like the idea is that when you like I have to innovate on a regular basis. So and we do that at work too, right? Like your best employees are constantly innovating, getting better, and then other people mimic them, and then they get better, and then other people find then they other people mimic the people that are mimicking, and that's how you kind of build a culture of excellence, right? You have a few like high peak performers, and then those peak performers get mimicked, and then those people get mimicked. Well, when you fire everybody, you you lose that. And the problem is that the business people think that the person who has figured out that, like, they figure out, oh, the LLM, the business people think that the LLM is doing the, oh, I got cornered and now I'm going to um, innovate, and because I don't want to lose, so I need to figure out another thing, I need to find another pattern, blah 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 blah, right? Like, they think that the LLM does that. The people who write the LLM experts know that it doesn't do that. The LLM experts know that it looks at the best practices and the most successful outcomes, and then it figures out what, like if there's five people who are having really, if there's 1,000 people and five of them are having really good outcomes, it kind of figures out what those five are doing together, and then it creates it says, hey, this is what we need to do, blah 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 blah, right? Done. And that's what the LLM people understand. That the business people don't understand that. The business people think it's sort of doing a big analysis of all the data and figuring out, oh, if we do this instead of that, we're going to come up with a better outcome. No LLM person is ever going to tell you that. They may agree with that, or maybe they're not listening to you and they just nod their head or something like that. But they know that's not how it works. Now, the thing is the LLM people, they don't understand that things are constantly shifting. It's always, there's never, the right answer is constantly changing. They don't understand that. So the LLM people are like, oh yeah, no, let us just analyze what your stuff does, and then how all your people do, and then you can just fire them all because now we have, and you can, replace them with your peak performers and all of them with people that don't know anything, because they can just go to the LLM, to the artificial intelligence, and they'll know, and it'll tell them what to do. So just go ahead and fire everybody. Don't worry about it. And it's like, um, the yeah, that's gonna work for like whatever, one cycle. It's not going to work over time. Over time, all the ways that you do those things are all the successful ways of doing it are going to go away. And sometimes these peak performers, sometimes it takes decades for them to get to the peak performance point. Like, they just, like, luck, all kinds of crazy stuff happened, and then like now they're just like a wizard and they can just get stuff done, and no one knows how they're getting done. They don't even know how they do it. They're just like, I just know stuff. I just every time I touch one of those things, it works. And I remember I used to watch the Mercedes-Benz um, stadium getting built, and there was a point where like everything just kind of stopped, and then I was talking to some welders, and they said that there was like a weld that, like, something that just kept cracking up on the, because they have like this massive roof that just sort of moves off and moves on, and that they were bringing some person in. I believe they might have even been from a different country. Um, and this one person just like, they could just weld stuff for some reason. Whenever they weld stuff, like, their welds hold when other people's welds don't. And no one really understood why. They're like, they videotape it. They said they, like, so basically what happens is, at the CNN center that was in Atlanta, that I don't know what it is now, but CNN did leave it. But they used to have like a food court, and it's very close to, like in easy walking distance to the stadium. And so the workers that were working on the stadium would often sit in the food court, and I've always been a very curious person, so I like to sit there. We It was kind of fun because there was like the food gallery area, and then right above it was like some um, like a second story, like a catwalk, and you could sit up there if you were an employee, and like you could just have your lunch there or whatever. And I would just sort of listen to what people were saying, and just sort of take in the vibe of the whole place. And those guys were really loud, and they would just talk about their day of welding and things about welding and all that. So like, but this dude, like, for some reason, one person could weld when nobody else could weld. And maybe an AI could have looked at it and figured out what he was welding, but I bet you anything that the guy was constantly innovating. He wasn't just, he didn't just have some scheme that he could just do every time. He was like innovating in real time all the time. And that nobody from who makes an LLM who understands LLMs would ever tell you that an LLM can innovate in real time every time. It just can't. It can't innovate. It doesn't innovate. It just looks at what other people have. Like the LLM has never welded anything, right? Like if you, some people go up to a water faucet and they go like with the hose and they go, lefty loosey, righty tighty. So they go, oh, okay, if I turn it left, it'll open. And then some people just try it, right? Like we all have different ways of doing it. And and if you were to say, hey, how do I to a LLM, how do I open a water faucet, water in a for my hose? It would look through thousands and thousands of different conversations and it would find every conversation that was about that and then it would make a best guess based on all the different conversations of what the right way to do it. It has never actually done a water faucet. It never has. If something changed, if you fired all water faucet people, nobody in water was allowed to do anything with water faucets anymore, and then something changed, there would be nobody to write stuff down for the LLMs to read, right? It's just crazy. Anyways, yeah, a classic mutual overconfidence gap is well, so my base assumption is that these companies are not trying to put themselves out of business, but that's what they're doing. And they're doing it because of a classic mutual overconfidence gap. Anyways, I felt like I had to say something about that. Everyone have a wonderful day. Bye.